Good morning, everyone. Today, I, Sabyasachi, and my group members, Vishwa, Shraddha, and Janvi, will present a comparison between two important modernist chairs, the Wassily chair by Marcel Breuer and the Chandigarh chair by Pierre Jeanneret, in terms of their form, the materials used, and how they were mass-produced. After a brief introduction to the chairs, we will talk about the form of the chairs, the materials, and the methods of production with respect to mass production. Comparison between the chairs will help understand the reason behind the use of contrasting materials and methods of production and how both chairs express the spirit of modernism despite being so different. The Wassily chair was designed in 1925 in the Bauhaus style, which is a part of the larger modernist movement, whereas the Chandigarh chair, also a modernist creation, was made in 1955, almost 3 decades later. The invention of a new method of making steel tubes, which made bending them possible, led to the making of the Wassily chair, while Jeanneret used age-old methods of craft production. Wassily chair was first in line of many tubular steel creations by Breuer. The Chandigarh chair had the Jeanneret's commonly used V-shaped legs. Wassily chair was made for auditoriums and living spaces, while the Chandigarh chair had a much more concrete sense of purpose. It was made for the new city plan of Chandigarh to be used in offices and government buildings. I'll now hand over to Jan.
Coming to form and mass production, the overall form of the Wassily chair was inspired by the handle of the bicycle and it was a stripped down version of an overstuffed club chair, while the legs of the Chandigarh chair were inspired by an architect's drafting compass. The frame of the Wassily chair had hard angular forms with many curved edges. The black bands are stretched over it to make the sitting and the armrest appear to be floating in space, whereas the Chandigarh chair follows simple angular forms with thick straight-cut pieces of wood. The backrest of the sitting are made of cane. The inclination of the Wassily chair is such that it appears quite uncomfortable to sit on it for a longer period of time, while in case of Chandigarh chair, it appears to be quite comfortable. The Wassily chair was industry made, with each piece being an exact replica of the previous one, and because of the simpler form, it could be mass produced at a lower cost. Whereas the Chandigarh chair is handcrafted by various craftsmen, therefore they might differ from each other. The availability of cheap labor made it easier to mass produce. I'll now hand it over to Vishwa.
Continuing with materials used. The Wassily chair is one of the first furniture made of bent tubular steel rods, which form the structural frame, whereas the Chandigarh chair is made out of locally sourced teak wood. Teak wood was used as it was termite and weather resistant, perfect for Chandigarh's climate, whereas steel was used for its cheap availability, strength, and bendability. The black strips stretched over the Wassily chair are made with woven horsehair and tied up with saddle stitch, while the seat and backrest of Chandigarh chair are woven by local craftsmen out of cane and assembled using locally available glue. Thus, both the designers took the advantage of localized resources and labor for mass production. In the Wassily chair, the curved edges are achieved using welding, whereas at the junctions, nuts and bolts are used. Looking at the Chandigarh chair, the sharp edges are made by connecting the wooden planks using box joint. I'll hand it over to Shraddha now.
Moving on to the methods of production, the GIF image on the right-hand side of this slide shows the new method of bending tubular steel used by Breuer to make the overall frame of the Wassily chair. The image on the left-hand side is an example to show the bend. In the Chandigarh chair, the teak wood was cut into required number of pieces using hand saws in workshops and joined together using box joint as shown in the GIF. The next slide shows a saddle stitch, which is an overcasting stitch made with a strip of leather. This kind of method is quite efficient as it is done by a machine and gives a quick output. While we see that in the Chandigarh chair, the cane was woven by hand so the number of holes drilled into the wooden frame. Compared to the Wassily chair, it involves manual labor and takes more time of production, thus resulting in low output. Now, I'll hand it over to Savisa.
The Wassily chair follows one of the founding beliefs of modernism, that is, buildings and artifacts should be constructed of the new materials and methods supplied by the Industrial Revolution, and these materials should inform the design of the buildings. Modernism also believes that everything should be utilitarian. This is something that the Chandigarh chair follows as it had a concrete sense of purpose for its making. We hope that this comparison has helped establish how the chairs follow modernist ideologies even with the stark differences between them. Thank you.